Dear Earthmates, we are visiting.
Got it.
Pardon?
I had to put got it. That it's recorded. That's being recorded.
Oh, yes, yes. Wonderful. Uh, we are visiting Marian Eikelhof in Rotterdam. We met in Istanbul a few years ago, thanks to our mutual friend Vedat Akdamar, and we did a poet reading of my play, Virtual Yours, and I'm thankful to you again.
Thank you. It was a great joy for me doing it with you. It was very amusing as well, all those voices.
Yes, and maybe we can do it and record it separately for YouTube. Why not?
That would be great.
Great. And you're a powerful poet and personality, and your presence is very stimulating.
Thank you.
And automatically leading people to thinking better and trying to think better. I want to express this.
Oh, that's a great compliment. Thank you, Tarık.
Marian, how did your love in poetry begin?
I think it started with...
Or poetry.
I started with sometimes feeling lonely, and it happened when I was 12 years old, that sometimes I felt different than other children. And I was looking more to the trees and to the listening more to the wind, I think, and also experiencing more feelings of why am I here, and why are there so many people suffering around me, but also why can't I express what I feel in school? So I started to write little poems, actually secretly during the lessons. And then, for example, once I was alone in a flat building and I had to write about the coldness of the stone around me and the sterile surroundings and people not being very able to say hello to each other in a spontaneous way, and to express that feeling in a poem helped me to overcome that. So I think it was more born from being sometimes an outsider, feeling an outsider sometimes, because I didn't observe this sadness so much in my peers.
Yes. And how about your interest in psychology? Psychotherapy.
Well, it was also pragmatic. I found that out. It was the only thing I was really good at. I've done.
There's a connection problem. Suddenly, your picture froze.
Beyond that, I'm more a thinker than a pragmatic person.
Just for a brief moment, your picture froze. Would you repeat the last few sentences?
So I found out that psychology was something I was really good at. I helped people from an early age to overcome stress and to overcome trauma. I help people to meditate and to look inside and to look for deeper values and to stand above pain and to stand above what other people think about you, whether it's negative or positive. You should just continue your life, and you should always express your views and perspectives. And I helped other children to feel relaxed from an early age.
Mm-hmm.
Children who were afraid to fail in school.
I think you have strong intuition.
Yes.
You see through people. I think you have this intuitive ability.
It's intuition, and it's also a part of my training to do that, to observe whether people are authentic or whether their eyes are speaking the language of their heart. And somebody's waving at me, something. But it's you are right. It's a combination of intuition and of almost sometimes like feeling a spiritual connection with other people and being able to stand in their shoes and to suffer what they suffer without really knowing the whole content.
I see.
So yes, I also help people like war victims. But I'm not a war victim myself, but my mother was a war victim.
Oh, how in the Netherlands?
No, my mother was in the Japanese camp.
Oh.
So she suffered a lot. Hunger, starvation, to see her mother being tortured because my grandmother lost her teeth. She was punished for not looking to he
Excuse me.
looked up to him, he got angry and he started to beat. And my grandmother, she was the kind of woman that she just looked him in the eyes and then he beat all the teeth out of her mouth.
So in the Second World War, she was, how come she was imprisoned? I don't know. How did she become a captive? Hello? There's a internet connection problem. There's a connection problem. Your picture froze again.
At that time, she was born in Indonesia.
Ah, she was in Indonesia.
Yeah. And they were captured by the Japanese because the Japanese were at that time they were allies of the Germans.
Yes.
And so they were separated from their husbands, and the boys and the girls went to different camps. So they were punished in very also sadistic way. They saw that the bread was being buried in front of their eyes. And then they didn't have something to eat for 3 days, and all that they had to go through. So I heard those stories from my mother from an early age. So I think it changed my view a little bit about the world and what was going on. And it made me more aware of also a negative aspect of humanity.
Yes. Exactly. Difficult. I'm speechless. Well, you're indirectly a war victim too. I mean, because having been told about those, that they do influence one, don't they? Well, in a way, all sensitive people today in the world are war victims. We empathize.
That's very nicely put. Very good. Very good way of putting it. We're all, yes.
Because now we are being bombed in Ukraine. We are suffering in Afghanistan. We are suffering in Gaza, in Yemen. And we are terrorized by some groups in Nigeria, in the Middle East, etc. So it is not like we are separate and things are happening there. No.
Yes, true.
And the more people think maybe this way, instead of trying to protect their comfort zones. I mean, a comfort zone is a delicate issue. It is both necessary, without which we would commit suicide, maybe. It is necessary, but at the same time, we shouldn't be too comfortable, maybe.
You are completely right. like you say, also not too realistic. I remember you saying that. It's also not so healthy. I think our biggest fear is to die. And we have to face that. Like the Indians said, it's a great day to die when they went to war. It's a great day to die, which
Wow.
is, it's just so much courage. And that helps you to live because you can't grasp anything in your hands. We can't possess anything. We can only possess by not possessing anything. It's the
True.
only way.
True.
We will always shine from our soul, if we're able to change. We have to change. We have to be confronted with changes and not and be scared, but just go on. And
Yes.
even if we're scared, just go on.
Yes.
Of course, I'm scared because I'm living in the same house for 20 years, and I love my little house. But also I have to leave. It's from time to time and travel through the world, not to become a very selfish person and only practicing my own rituals and controlling my own safety zone all the time. Which makes me, in the end, it makes you more vulnerable.
True, true.
It's like a tree that is old and is stiff. It will break. We have to bend with the wind.
That's right. That's right. You write in several languages?
Yes, I started to write actually. Of course, I started to write in Dutch, but then I got into contact with Poesia Cuba, and then I thought, okay, that's a nice language. So I learned a little bit more Spanish. And Spanish poetry is also very beautiful. Have you written? You can read it, and of course in English. I've been reciting that in Turkish. No, I have not been reciting that. I have been reciting in Turkey, but it has been translated into Turkish because Turkish is not. I can't speak Turkish, unfortunately.
Well, you could. Maybe one of your poems in Turkish. We can work on it together, and you can read it.
Thank you.
Spanish. I studied a little bit of Spanish in early 1980s when I was in Saudi Arabia because I wanted to go to Nicaragua after the Sandinista revolution.
Oh, you are also a very driven person, very inspired, with a vision, with a goal, with a deeper goal.
Yes, yes.
To learn a language for a higher aspiration is very beautiful, I think.
But the only sentence I know is Deseo hablar español, pero no puedo.
Okay, well, that will open doors. They're very helpful.
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. How do you write, by the way? Is there a specific time of the day, in the morning, at night, the place, or any time, any place?
No, it's happening. It's happening very fast in my head. I think most of the poems I've never written because I haven't had no time or I'm having a conversation with somebody. I must write it down immediately. It's a process of 2-3 minutes. And if I don't do that, it's gone.
Interesting. You use a pen, pencil, directly?
A pen, and then later, of course, I start to work on the poem. It's not like I'm having a divine inspiration, but it starts with that. It starts with a sentence coming in my head, and I think, wow, this is really different. This is a very beautiful metaphor, or the alliteration is very nice, or the perspective is completely different. Yeah.
Yes. Something that attracts you, an idea, something which you find appealing and invites you to an adventure.
Yes. Yes. And then it's almost heavenly when other people start to recognize the idea behind it, and you can feel like an universal connection with the other people in the world, not only poets, also a good reader or somebody with an open mind. You don't have to be a poet to understand poetry or to like poetry.
Mm. When I look at you, the word shaman comes to my mind.
Oh my.
You are a secret shaman, I think, in a way.
Okay, well, don't tell the organizations I work for, because I work with, of course, the current therapies and methods. But it's true. Sometimes I use it in my therapy when people are very afraid to get ill or to die. I think, okay, let's get some spiritual insight now and some inner peace. By I will guide you through another path and make you feel relaxed about the fact that you will lose only the material existence, your physical existence, but your soul will always travel on infinitely. Well, that's my conviction, and yes, there is a very large, big world, another dimension. But I don't think it's only a religious belief. I think it's also scientifically, you can prove it, because we have only a limited view of reality. Do you agree or not?
Yeah, I honestly hope that you're right. I'm not so optimistic. Personally, I think my story, as I live it, psychologically and biologically, will come to an end. But I hope that some of my things will be read, etc., enjoyed. But would you like to read a few of your poems? I'll be happy.
Yes. Shall I start in English?
Yes, please.
Bella and the Beast. Between me and my death, there's not anything but you, baby. Your hot breath awakes my heart and poetry. Beside these aspects and plenty of pleasures, I prefer to keep a secret. To make this poem civilized, I would surely be vegetative, a sleeping princess in the lap of infinity, knocked out, unconscious, literally paralyzed.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes. Will you please
It's a
send
very beautiful poem I'm going to read now. Chile, 1973, dedicated to Victor Jara.
Oh, I also wrote a poem about Victor Jara.
I know, I felt it. It can't be a coincidence.
And it's interesting that a good friend of mine, who's the president of PEN Chile, he's a poet and he's the chair-elect of the Peace Committee now. And I'll be happy to introduce you to each other. He's also in our Earth Civilization network. And he was, as a youngster, he was in the team of Salvador Allende.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's really fantastic.
Oh, now, and yes, let's your poem, please. How interesting.
Chile, 1973, dedicated to Victor Jara. Guess that's how it went. He had to stand there under a killing sun, tied up, as if he had a clue where to go. The hate of the executioner burned right through his soul. He thought about her smile, the dress she wore that day, and the kiss she gave him thoughtlessly, as he would not be away for long. Come back home the very best day. His thoughts fell down like drops of blood, like the tears of his beloved land, like the names of your father, your brother, your son, your husband. And like so many songs, I can't sing for you about the tender dreams in the heart of a fallen man.
Thank you so much. Herman Rojas, my poet friend.
Herman Rojas.
Yes, and my interview with him is also available on YouTube.
I want to look at it.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And in the past 14 months, this is about the 58th, 59th interview in English. And so an interesting collection is appearing, portraits from our world.
Yes.
Very interesting different personalities.
Yes, it's a shame that not all the people know about Salvador Allende and the great work he did for the
Exactly,
people.
exactly. And usually people, when they hear 9/11, they think only of the Twin Towers,
Yes,
but
true.
the military coup d'etat took place on 9/11. So that was the first one. And I wrote about Salvador Allende when I was 20 then. I was struck. Well, will you please send me these poems so that I can put them
Yes,
under the presentation, the video? So we'll be, with your bio notes, we can have the poems as well.
that's a good idea because I'm really so sorry for Victor Jara because he was such a beautiful person. And to think that he was tortured and his hands were cut off. And
Yes.
it's so awful. It's like you slaughter an animal.
Yes.
It's crazy that people are able to do that.
Terrible. And the murderer was caught some 40 years later, and he was imprisoned. He's either in.
That's a good thing.
So I revised the poem when I learned that his murderer had been. Well, poetry is very important, really, and we poets are dangerous, and
they don't always like us. It's true.
The thing is, for example, I think more poets have been imprisoned than novelists, for example, because you cannot remember or recite a novel, but one or two lines, strong poetry. That's very, very influential and dangerous. So
it's true. I've written a poem about refugees and about the spirit people have that they want only to save their own lives, and then a woman in the public, she got really angry with me and she reacted, what, this is not a good poem, this is not nice you're saying. And then I thought, wow, you don't always realize that you appeal to people that way and that you can trigger real emotions like anger when you speak, when you're only saying the truth and you're only representing the voices of the people around you. Yes, a poet can confront people with themselves and also confront with our own hypocrisy, for instance.
true. And true art disturbs.
Yes.
It should be a little bit of disturbing, at least provoking. My American Mexican poetess friend Judith Hill considers herself a provocateur. I love it, poet and provocateur.
Yes, it's also
Yes.
the alliteration of the pay, poet, provocateur.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
She'll also be happy to meet you. I mean, this there is a very wonderful group growing, and you also showed a book about the children.
Yes.
Wonderfully important.
But It's a book I wrote for children who are being bullied. It's called Lekker Boeiend, which is saying, wow, it's not that important. You're not that important. It's just a way of defending yourself, because for 20 years, I've helped children who are being bullied. At the moment, helping adults, because the need is very high since the COVID pandemics. People have a lot of anxieties at the moment, psychiatric problems, and I'm very good at it. So I am now helping mostly adults, but I love to work with children as well. And I really learned them to stood up for themselves, because that's the first thing you have to learn in life, not to let yourself being intimidated.
That's right. And usually we are bullied by governments as well.
Yeah, it starts by understanding that you can have your own opinion, that you don't have to always follow the opinion of other people. Also, when they're wearing a suit or they're very rich, you know, money should not impress so much. You know, we love knowledge. I love knowledge. I love knowledge more than money.
Me too, honestly.
Yes.
Who are some of the poets, writers, or other realms, fields, intellectuals from other fields, who impressed you most since your early youth, childhood even, and today? A few names.
It's not a poet, but who impressed me very much was Anne Frank. Anne Frank, which is a young Jewish girl, was very wise for her age, to believe in the good aspects of people. Is very, very audacious from a girl from that age, you know, in that situation. So that impressed me. And later, of course, Sylvia Plath with Tulips. I like it very much. I would call this guy with this poem, this very famous Spanish writer. Of course, Pablo Neruda, Maria Benedetti, but you have another one also. I can't come up with his name, but maybe.
Yes. I wrote a play about a monodrama about Anne Frank, and I also did a version of Father and Daughter. That's the title. I played the part of Otto Frank.
Wow, that's really your part. Is really. Oh yes, I think you can be a good Otto Frank. Yes, he was a very tender father. You know, he was not. He was really good father.
Yeah. Yes. We have just a few minutes left, unfortunately.
Oh.
What else would you like to express? What would you suggest to young Earthmates?
Well, just to be authentic, to be spontaneous, to express what they really think, not to fear what other friends think about it, not to give too much importance to having friends, to being a popular guy, to being liked, to having the right clothes. Because in the end, I think the ones that survive are the ones who stick to themselves and risk sometimes that people get angry with you. That would be my advice. Take a risk.
Yes, yes. We still have at least 7 minutes, which is good. And I've never had a chance to visit Rotterdam. Of course, Erasmus, I translated a letter by Erasmus to, I think, was Thomas More from English translation, if my memory serves, some 30 years ago. Erasmus was a fascinating personality. What would you like to say about him?
Well, I'm happy what he did for our literature, and I'm also happy because if you come, I will show you the Erasmus Bridge, which is most beautiful bridge of Rotterdam, also called the Swan. And it's from there we can go to the Hotel New York. And that's a really nice place because there all the people came to go to America before they were. From there they went to America. And it's a very, I think it's a very beautiful place in Rotterdam to come there.
Mm-hmm. A few days ago, in an interview, I asked about the empires founded by Britain and Japan, both islands. Come to think of it, the Netherlands is also a kind of an island, you know, in a way. And then we see Portugal as well on one side. And then it's very interesting histories. How about Africa? Is did the Netherlands have a colony in Africa? I think, well, of course, South Africa, right?
Yes, South Africa, and but I think that was all in the past. I think now it's done in a different way. Like we build our, we're doing business with people there, and pay them very little, and so we can use their resources to build up our own enterprises here. So I think that's also a way of exploiting the people.
Neocolonial.
Yes, neocolonialism. I would rather say that, yes.
Yes. Andy Chaban, the scholar in Botswana, he's very keen on these issues. His one of the interviews is with him again.
Yes, it's a small country, but in the past we did a lot of conquering the world, and there's a lot of colonialism by the Dutch. Unfortunately, they did also bad things in the past.
Maybe the relative limitedness of the size gave some sort of need to
expand
because of feeling in danger,
and there was also a very strong Christian tradition in the Netherlands. So they were really convinced of bringing the Bible. And they were really thinking that was a good thing to do. And if they didn't listen to you, you had to kill them. So.
Yes. And of course, that anecdote by an African who said, when the whites came, they had the Bible, we had the land. When they left, we had the Bible and they had our when the situation is too tragic, we can't help laughing. I laugh too.
Yeah,
it's some
very realistic.
This is nano history in a way, just like nano stories. How about other genres? Apart from poetry, do you play with other genres, or do you?
With other what?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Genres, for example, short fiction, novel.
Oh, well, I'm trying to write a book, but it takes a lot of time, and it's hard for me because I'm very busy with my profession. I have a very big caseload with people really needing me. So poetry is more my style because it doesn't take
Yes.
So much time. Yes.
Yes.
And also I suffer from rheumatism, unfortunately. Oh. So that also limits me in typing. So I have to express my thoughts in short, limited.
Yes. And it is in harmony with the spirit of our age. The shorter, the better. Lots of things to read and do. So those who can write shortly, briefly, have an advantage.
It's true, but I'm not all too enthusiastic about haiku. I like it, but should not be all that too short.
No, but poetry is, by nature, it is condensed and
yes.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't have to be haiku. Yes, and what else would you like? We have 1 minute. I don't want to.
Well, I really enjoyed this interview, and I have lovely memories here about our poetry presentation in Istanbul, and you said something about realism, and I would like you to. Can you repeat it? Because you said something.
Did I say
me so much that I remember it after years that you should be realistic or something like that.
Realists are not realistic enough.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one. That's a great one.
Because they limit themselves. Imagination is part of reality too.
That's such a beautiful, it's in a way the paradox of
yes.
There's no way, it's only limiting to with analyzing